All right, looks like we've got a good number of people on. I see some more people are still joining, but we can go ahead and get started since we do have a lot to cover. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I really appreciate you all being here so that we can talk a little bit about the Supreme Court case on debt cancellation that you may have heard about in the news recently. We'll cover everything you need to know with that and show you a little bit about how to get started with Savi. A couple of things before we begin. We'd like to let you all know that this is being recorded and informational materials will be available to everyone following today's session. I believe we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel, so if you miss anything, don't worry, you will be able to go back and watch it again. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. Some of my teammates are on, ready to answer your questions, so they'll be typing replies. We'll also take a couple breaks to answer some questions out loud as we work through. And then last, if you need closed captioning, you can enable that using the instructions with the link that I am sending right now. Alrighty. My name is Jobe. I'm the Senior Associate of External Affairs here at Savi, and I'm really excited, like I said, that you're all here. We've got a lot to cover. So before we jump in, I just want to give an introduction as to who Savi is and a little bit of what we do. We are a public benefit corporation, and we started about 5 years ago to help borrowers just like you. In 2017, that was the first year that borrowers were eligible to apply for public service loan forgiveness. There was a record number of applicants, and less than 1% of those applications were accepted. We realized that there was a need for help, and borrowers needed assistance understanding what the requirements were for that program and making sure that they were able to successfully apply. So we were created to help borrowers apply for PSLF, understand the requirements, and receive that forgiveness. We're run by experts and advocates that have over 2 decades of experience, and many of us also have student loans of our own, so we have firsthand knowledge that helps us to help you. And we're focused on savings, and we help you find these through things like income-driven repayment plans and through public service loan forgiveness. A little bit more about us. We help simplify and digitize the eligibility and application process for all federal forgiveness programs. So when working with Savi, users are able to reduce their student loan payment by an average of $150 a month. And many of our users can receive an average forgiveness amount of around $20,500. So far, we've helped users find over $1 billion in projected loan forgiveness. And the great thing about Savi is we have just one application that you can complete to see personalized options for all of the federal programs we help with. So if you already have a Savi account, you can sign back into your account at buysavi.com. If you're brand new to Savi and you don't have an account yet, we've created an account for you to make it easier for you to get started. If you're brand new, you'll receive an email with instructions on how to reset your password so you can sign in and get started today. I encourage you all to check your email and reset your password while we're on this presentation. In case you run into any issues, we can try and help troubleshoot them while we're on. If you're a returning user, feel free to do the same and log back into your account so that we can help in case you run into any issues. Alrighty. That's all the intro stuff. So a little bit about what we'll talk about today. The bulk of our presentation is going to be on the Supreme Court hearing on debt relief. So we'll cover everything you need to know with what that was about, what the first day of arguments looked like, basically everything you need to know. After that, we'll cover some recent policy and program updates that are benefiting borrowers for the federal programs available. And then we'll wrap up with how to get started with Savi and an overview for those of you who are new or returning to Savi so that you can see what our application looks like. So first up, the reason we're all here, let's talk about the Supreme Court hearing on debt cancellation. This is a live look at the Supreme Court yesterday. Yesterday, the Supreme Court began hearing oral arguments in the case against debt cancellation. Because yesterday was the first day of arguments, there was a large rally of supporters for student debt cancellation that was right outside on the steps of the Supreme Court. And Savi was there to monitor the situation, get updates, and help keep you informed so that you know what's going on. So this Supreme Court case is in relation to a brand new program that President Biden announced last year. In case you aren't familiar with this, here's a quick recap of everything that plan included. Back in August of 2023, President Biden announced a brand new plan that would provide borrowers with debt cancellation as a result of the pandemic. Borrowers needed to meet the income requirement of $125,000 or less as an individual or $250,000 or less as a married borrower. If you met that income requirement, you could receive $10,000 in cancellation. And if you had a Pell Grant, you could receive $20,000 in cancellation. This was a brand new program, and once the application launched, nearly 26 million people applied for relief. A couple of figures related to that: 98% of applications came from zip codes with a per capita income under 75,000, and over half of applications came from zip codes with per capita income under 35,000. So there was huge demand for this program. It was benefiting a lot of borrowers with lower incomes, and there was great interest. It was a brand new plan designed to help borrowers. I also like to let people know that this was a brand new plan separate from PSLF. So you may have heard of public service loan forgiveness. This plan was brand new, so everything we're talking about today is related just to this brand new program. Currently, that program is on hold due to the pending lawsuits that the Supreme Court is hearing. The Supreme Court heard arguments for the first time yesterday, and there are actually two different lawsuits against this program that are being heard at the same time. The first lawsuit was brought by two individuals who didn't qualify for the full program and claimed they wouldn't benefit and didn't have a chance to offer comments. The second case was brought by the attorney generals of 6 states that claimed the program would cause their states to lose out on revenue. Because of those cases, that program has been put on pause, and the Department of Education is not accepting applications for this program right now. Of the 26 million people that applied, nearly 16 million of them were already approved. If this is you, you may have received an email letting you know that they will hold your application and you don't need to reapply. If the program can continue, applications will reopen, so don't worry if you haven't applied yet. If the program continues, you will have the opportunity to do so. So what were the cases? Case 1, like I said, was 2 borrowers not eligible for the program. One of these borrowers qualified for $10,000 in cancellation, but didn't qualify for the full $20,000. The second borrower did not qualify for anything because they didn't have the correct loan types. The case these borrowers are making is that there should have been a comment period for them to provide feedback so the program could be revised to make them eligible. So that's case number 1. Case number 2 is that several states filed the lawsuit that claims that they would lose out on revenue from loan payments if the cancellation went through. The main state in case 2 is Missouri, which oversees MOHELA. MOHELA is a loan servicer that manages loans as well as manages the PSLF program. Normally, cases are heard separately and can take several months to go through the court system. However, because this is such a high-profile program and they wanted to get a result as fast as possible, the Supreme Court fast-tracked it and decided to hear both cases at the same time. So there are 2 cases being heard. They both were able to present their arguments yesterday, and technically there could be 2 decisions, one related to each case, but both cases are affecting the new program and will be released to determine if it can continue. So yesterday there was a rally by supporters for debt relief, and like I said, Savi was there to monitor the situation and provide you all with updates. The rally was organized by advocacy groups like Student Debt Crisis Center and Young Invincibles, and was an opportunity for supporters of debt cancellation to come, make their voices heard, and rally in support of debt cancellation. There were some high-profile speakers as well, like lawmakers, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and advocates like Natalia Abrams, who's the president of Student Debt Crisis Center. From about 8 a.m. to noon, all of these advocates and lawmakers were there giving speeches to rally the crowd, explain how the program would benefit them. We heard firsthand stories from student loan borrowers that told stories about what their life was like with student debt, how the program would benefit them. So it was a great opportunity for supporters to come out and make their voices heard. As I mentioned, there were some high-profile speakers that were there speaking in support of debt cancellation. Senator Elizabeth Warren was there, and in her speech, she said, "I am fired up to defend student loan debt cancellation for more than 40 million Americans." Another one was Representative Ilhan Omar, who says, "We are not going to stop or rest until every single person who has student debt is freed from that and is able to have opportunity in this country." It's really great to see many lawmakers out there pushing for student debt cancellation and pushing to help student loan borrowers just like you all. Student loans have been on a national stage lately, and it's a really great time for you to start thinking about your loans and taking action on them. Because it's in the news, there are so many new programs like this one that are being created. There's advocates pushing to help student loan borrowers. So definitely a really exciting time in the student loan world right now. A couple more pictures from the rally yesterday. These are all photos that Savi took right there on the scene. On the left, that's our co-founder, Aaron Smith, and myself. We were present along with our chief borrower advocate, Lindsay Clark, who is also on helping answer questions in the chat. So had several familiar faces from Savi there at the rally, keeping track of everything. Representative Ayanna Presley was also there giving a speech. She talked about how empowered she is to work on behalf of student loan borrowers. She shared several stories that borrowers had told her. So definitely a great speech from her as well. And then last, one of the organizers of the rally was the Student Debt Crisis Center, who we do work with here at Savi. Their president, Natalia Abrams, gave a speech about why she started Student Debt Crisis Center over 10 years ago, what it's been like fighting for student loan borrowers for the last 10 years, and she was able to introduce Senator Elizabeth Warren before she gave her speech as well. So many advocates there from a wide variety of backgrounds. You can see in the back some student loan borrowers with signs saying cancel student debt, wearing sweatshirts that showed their loan amounts. So a really exciting and cool opportunity for all of them to come and share their stories. So some main takeaways from the day one of arguments. It can be really confusing understanding exactly what these arguments are, what the cases are. I myself sometimes get confused, and it took a lot of research to figure it out. So we're going to try and break it down and make it simple for you to understand exactly what's going on. The Supreme Court justices have two main tasks that they have to complete. First, they have to determine if the plaintiffs have a standing, which means they have to determine if they were affected and have grounds to sue. The standing that these plaintiffs are claiming they have are, one, the borrowers saying they weren't eligible and there should have been a comment period, and two, the states saying that they would lose out on revenue. If the Supreme Court justices determine the plaintiffs have a standing, then their next task is to determine if the arguments hold up and if the program is actually legal. So in terms of standing, the Supreme Court was apprehensive on if the two loan borrowers had a standing, meaning they weren't sure that they were really affected and if they really had a case to sue. In terms of those 6 states, though, it does seem likely that they were leaning towards agreeing there was a standing. So if they agree that they have a standing, that means the case goes through the first round and they will now argue on the legality of it. Some takeaways from thoughts on the program. In general, the conservative justices seemed more likely to think that the program was not legal, and they were concerned President Biden was overstepping his authority. To give you some background, after 9/11, an act was passed called the HEROES Act. This law allowed the Department of Education to modify loan terms in times of a national emergency in order to benefit student loan borrowers. The conservative justices were concerned that modify and cancellation are two different things. So they're tasked with determining if canceling loans counts as modifying or if it is a separate thing and this program can't continue. The liberal justices, though, agreed that the law was clear and that this program was legal. So now that oral arguments have been presented, the justices are going to work to determine if they're standing and then determine the legality of it. It is still pretty soon in the process, and the Supreme Court is very secretive about the information that is released before they release a decision. Many people are speculating which way it could go, and it is very early right now. Some kind of thoughts from insiders and experts from yesterday are, like I said, that one of the cases has a better chance of getting standing than the other, and that overall the court was apprehensive on this program, determining if they should let it go or not. So what happens now? Now that the arguments are concluded, the Supreme Court justices will deliberate to make a decision. They don't announce specifically when decisions will be released, but we expect to hear one around May or June of this year. The Supreme Court is in session until this summer, and typically they save their biggest decisions for the end of their session. So we're expecting that this decision will come out around the summertime. If they rule in favor of the plaintiffs, the debt cancellation program will not be permitted to continue, and this cancellation will not be given out. However, if they find that neither of them have standing, or if they rule in favor of the defendants, the program will be permitted to continue so that the cancellation can be given out and applications will reopen. Because the decision has not been released yet and it is still up in the air, the Department of Education has announced that payments will stay paused until a decision is released. Once a decision is released, payments will resume 60 days after that. If no decision has been released by June 30th, payments would resume 60 days after that, which would be September resume. Savi is going to continue to monitor this situation and will update everyone once a decision has been made. So great first day of oral arguments yesterday, great attending the rally. Now it's on the justices to read over the facts, listen to the arguments from each side, make their decisions, and determine whether or not this program is legal and can continue. All right. I know that was a lot of information. I see the questions popping up there, so I'm sure you have some questions about what's going on. So let's take a break to answer some of them, make sure that we are getting all of the information out there so that you're understanding what's going on and what it's looking like moving forward. I see there is some questions about the eligibility for that program. So remember, there were two kind of qualifying things to determine whether or not you qualified for this. Number one was an income requirement. So as an individual, you needed to make $125,000 or less, and as a couple, it was $250,000 or less. And that was based on your 2020 or your 2021 adjusted gross income from your tax return. If you made under that income amount, you qualified for cancellation as long as you had the correct loan types. The correct loan types needed for this program were any federally held student loans. So that includes direct loans, Parent Plus loans, and FFEL FEL loans. If you had commercial FEL loans, unfortunately, those ones did not qualify, but any federally held loans did as long as you met the income requirement. And then last, the amount of cancellation you qualified for depended on your loan types as well. So if you didn't receive a Pell Grant, you qualified for $10,000 in cancellation. If you did receive a Pell Grant, it was $20,000. So those were the main requirements. The application for that was fairly simple. All you needed to do was provide your personal information and say that you met the requirements, and the Department of Education would check to confirm that you actually did, and then notify you that you were approved. So if you already applied, remember, they will hold your application. There's no need to reapply, and they may even send you an email letting you know that you were approved, and you'll receive that if the program continues. Someone asking what tax year it was. It was based on your 2020 and your 2021 tax return. So whatever your adjusted gross income was from those tax years, as long as it was under the 125,000 or 250,000, it qualified. And yes, this also does apply to Parent Plus loans. So Parent Plus loans were included in this brand new debt relief. So if you have a Parent Plus loan and you met the income requirement, you could receive that cancellation as well. Lots of questions coming through, and I see my team is replying, reading through just to see some of the main ones that people are asking. Someone asked a really great question, and this is actually something that we'll be talking about soon. Will the Supreme Court decision on one-time forgiveness have an effect on the proposed changes to IDR plans? So those are two entirely separate proposals. The Supreme Court decision is just in regards to debt cancellation. The IDR changes, which I'll discuss on some upcoming slides, are separate, and they're currently in their comment period where borrowers are providing feedback. The Department of Education is working on reviewing all of that feedback, making the changes, and we expect that to launch later this year. So I'll cover that on an upcoming slide, but no, the Supreme Court decision does not affect the proposed IDR changes. A couple people are asking what determines the 10 to 20K cancellation. So remember, that is based on whether or not you received a Pell Grant. A Pell Grant is a grant given out to undergraduate students who are low income. So it doesn't matter if you received that Pell Grant a year ago or 20 years ago. If you ever received a Pell Grant at all throughout your student loan journey, you qualify for the $20,000. You can confirm if you received a Pell Grant as well as confirm your loan types by logging in to studentaid.gov. That's the Department of Education's website for managing your loans. It lets you see your entire loan history, your loan balances, loan types, all of that. So I encourage you to log on to studentaid.gov to review your loan types, see if you received a Pell Grant so that you know if you qualify for that $10,000 or $20,000. Someone says, when were you able to apply for this? The program was announced in August, and applications for this launched in October, but were shortly closed on November 11th. So they were only open for about a month. If you applied already, they will hold your application and you don't need to reapply. If you haven't applied yet, don't worry, because if the program can continue, they will reopen applications to give everyone the chance to apply. So don't worry if you haven't applied yet. Someone asks a great question and says, is employment considered for this program? This brand new debt relief program is completely separate from public service loan forgiveness, and your employment is not a factor. You do have to work for a qualifying employer for public service loan forgiveness, but for this brand new debt cancellation program, it's only based on your income and loan types. So it's perfectly okay if you don't work in public service for this program. Someone says they have two student loans that are Parent Plus loans because they have two children. Can they apply twice? So the way that it will work is it's just a maximum amount of $10,000 or $20,000 if you meet the requirements. So you can't receive, that cancellation twice. You can apply, and even if you only have one or multiple loans, they will provide you with that up to $10,000 cancellation. So you won't receive any more than $10,000 or $20,000. If you have a loan balance under those amounts, though, it is possible you would receive less than it, since it's just either 10,000 or maximum of what your loan balance is. This is a great question, and I'm sure others have it. We get asked all the time, does the Supreme Court decision affect PSLF? It does not. PSLF is completely separate. Don't worry. PSLF is still operating full steam ahead. We are seeing borrowers receive forgiveness under that program every single day. Just last week, we heard from borrowers that in total have received almost $1 million in forgiveness. So we had a really great week last week hearing back from borrowers who were approved for PSLF. That program is still operating full steam ahead. You can still apply, still receive that forgiveness. So PSLF is not affected by this case that we've discussed. Lots of people asking questions about Parent Plus loans and if those qualify. Parent Plus loans did qualify for this brand new debt relief program. So as long as you met the income requirement, Parent Plus loans were a qualifying loan type for that program. Forgiveness also applied to grad students. So it didn't matter if your loans were graduate or undergrad. As long as you met the income requirement, it didn't matter whether your loans were grad or undergrad. Both loan types of those were eligible for this cancellation. How do you know if you were approved? Someone says they will send you an email letting you know that you were approved and your application will be held. I believe if we go back a slide, the subject was on there. Maybe it's a couple more slides back, saying that there was an update on one-time debt relief. Right here, update on student loan debt relief and the status of your application. So if you are approved, you will receive an email with that subject line letting you know that you were approved for the cancellation, and it will be given out once the program can continue. It's further back than I thought it was. All right, let's take a look at a couple more questions, and then we can continue on to talk about some policy changes, how to get started with Savi, and then we will take another question break after all of that. For those of you that joined late, we are recording this. We will be posting it on our YouTube channel. So don't worry, you will be able to go back, rewatch anything that you missed so that you can get all of your questions answered and get all the info that you need related to the Supreme Court case. Last question, just because I see several people are asking it. Remember, if you didn't apply, it is okay. The application will reopen if the program can continue. So if you didn't apply yet, don't worry. Once the decision is released, they'll reopen the application so that you have the chance to apply again. All right. I see all of my teammates are busy typing replies. I see more questions are coming in, but let's go ahead and continue on for a little bit longer, talk about some policy updates, and then we'll take another question break right after that. So in this section, we will talk about some upcoming account adjustments that will be benefiting borrowers. We'll talk about some updates to the PSLF program. We'll cover everything you need to know for the payment pause. And then last, we'll just recap all the important dates you need to know so that you can stay on top of your student loans for the upcoming year. So first, let's talk about some account adjustments. I saw some of you had questions about this, so let's talk about it. Last year in April of 2022, the Department of Education announced one-time improvements to address long-standing problems borrowers have faced. In the past, borrowers have been wrongly steered into forbearances and deferments. They may not have gotten credit for every payment that they made towards forgiveness. And the Department of Education recognizes that there have been issues historically, and this revision is an attempt to correct that, get everybody on track for forgiveness moving forward so that everyone can receive forgiveness as soon as possible. So coming up later this year, the Department of Education is going to go back into everyone's repayment history and then give you credit for some things that may not have counted in the past, but count under these changes. In order to receive credit for these IDR and PSLF changes, though, you must have direct loans or FFEL loans that are managed by the department. So borrowers that have other types of federal loans, like a FFEL, a commercial loan, will need to consolidate by May 1st, 2023. By consolidating by May 1st, that will bring your loan back to the Department of Education so that it's held by them and that you can receive credit under these updates. To get updates for PSLF, you'll be required to have a qualifying employment that overlaps from those same periods. So what exactly are these changes and what does it look like? The Department of Education is going to go back, look at your entire repayment history, and for any month that you were in repayment, regardless of if your payment was partial, late, the correct loan type, or the correct repayment plan, it will be counted as in repayment. In addition, any month in which loans were in an eligible repayment, deferment, or forbearance period prior to consolidation will also be counted. In relation to forbearance and deferment periods, whether or not you'll receive credit depends on how long you were in those periods of forbearance and deferment. So any months that a borrower has spent at least 12 consecutive months in forbearance or more than 36 cumulative months of forbearance will be counted as in repayment. So normally, forbearance and deferment periods don't count towards IDR or PSLF forgiveness, but if you were in those forbearances for that time amount, they will be revising it, counting it as in repayment so that you can count it towards IDR or PSLF. In addition, any months spent in deferment before 2013 will also be revised as in repayment, with the exception of in-school deferment. So if you were in school deferment, not making payments, that time won't count. But any other deferments like a medical treatment deferment, hardship deferment, things like that will be adjusted to count as well. The big takeaways from this are that these are automatic updates for anyone with the correct loan types. If you don't have the correct loan types, you'll need to consolidate by May 1st in order to receive the adjustment. You can confirm what your loan types are by logging into the student aid website, which is studentaid.gov, to see if you have the direct or FFEL loans managed by the department to see if you qualify for this adjustment. If you don't have the correct loan types, you'll want to consolidate, which can also be done through the student aid website. And Savi can also help provide instructions and walk you through the consolidation process as well. These adjustments are expected to be done sometime this summer, and Savi will continue to monitor the situation. So once these adjustments are taking place and accounts are starting to be updated, we will be sure to notify all of our users so that you will be able to see those updates and get them counted towards forgiveness. Similarly, there have been some updates to PSLF that will be benefiting borrowers as well. Several of you were asking about how the payment pause works whenever you're pursuing PSLF. Time during the payment pause is going to count, which will be a huge opportunity for eligible borrowers. So if you think back to when the payment pause started in March of 2020, for every month that payments were paused and you were still working in public service, you'll be able to count that month as a qualifying payment credit. This means that by the time payments resume later this year, you'll have the potential to receive over 40 free PSLF credits out of the 120 you need. So that's almost a third of the way without having to pay a dime. We really are encouraging anyone who qualifies for the payment pause to take advantage of it because it's very beneficial to you and helps you get even more forgiveness. Normally, when you make a student loan payment, it reduces your total balance, which reduces the amount that you can get forgiven. But by getting credit for a month and getting closer to forgiveness, your balance will stay the same, letting you get even more forgiven. Remember, the payment pause is in effect until we hear back about the new debt cancellation program. So once the decision is released, it will be 60 days after that. If no decision by June 30th, 60 days from then. So the payment pause is still in effect. You can continue to earn credit towards PSLF, and all you need to do to get credit for that time period is just submit an employment certification form for the employer you were at. So whatever employers you worked for going back to March of 2020, once you turn in your employment certification form, you'll automatically get credit for all of those months. So there's no extra steps you need to take to get credit for them. Later on this year, the Department of Education will also be making some lasting improvements to the PSLF program. You may have heard of the PSLF Limited Waiver, which was an opportunity for borrowers last year that expanded requirements and helped them get credit for more past payments. The Department of Education realized how beneficial that program was, and they're working to make some of those temporary changes permanent. This will help reduce barriers that have made it harder for borrowers to make progress towards forgiveness. And they're doing this in two ways. The first way is that they're going to help you earn progress towards PSLF more easily. So just like with those account adjustments, you'll get credit for late, installment, and lump sum payments. Once the account adjustments are done, you'll also be able to count those forbearance and deferment periods. Remember, it's more than 12 consecutive months or more than 36 months cumulative for the forbearances. And for deferments, it's any deferments before 2013, except in school. In addition, moving forward, you'll be able to receive a weighted average of existing payments on new consolidation loans. So previously, if you consolidated, it resets your payment count to 0, and you had to make 120 more payments. Moving forward, the PSLF program will take a weighted average of the loans you consolidate. That way you are able to continue your progress without having to reset to 0 so that you can receive forgiveness sooner. The second point is they're going to make it simpler to certify employment for PSLF. The first thing they're going to do is apply a standard of full-time employment at 30 hours per week. So under old guidelines, it was either your employer's definition of full-time or 30 hours per week, whichever was higher. This means that if your employer's definition of full-time was more than 30 hours, you had to work that amount. But moving forward, anyone working at least 30 hours per week will be considered full-time to potentially qualify for PSLF. They'll also allow adjunct faculty to multiply credit hours by 3.35. So the goal of this is to help that adjunct faculty who may be part-time get closer or even over the 30-hour threshold so that they can qualify for PSLF as well. And last, they'll be allowing contract workers to certify employment as well. So normally you have to be directly employed by a qualifying employer, but after these adjustments are done, contract workers working for a public service employer will be able to qualify as well. Same as with everything else, Savi is going to continue to monitor this. Once these improvements are implemented, we'll be sure to let people know. That way you can apply, take advantage of these changes, and hopefully get even closer to receiving forgiveness. And last, the payment pause. I've mentioned this a couple times, but it affects probably everybody here, so definitely worth repeating. Payments are still paused, and they will be paused until we hear back about the debt cancellation program. So once a decision is released, payments will resume 60 days from that date. If no decision has been made by June 30th, payments will resume 60 days from that, which would be September 1st at the latest. No matter when they resume, you'll be notified by the Department of Education, and you'll have that 60-day window to begin making preparations for resuming payments. We encourage everyone to log into studentaid.gov to confirm your contact information is up to date, confirm who your loan servicer is. That way you've got all the details you need for whenever it's time to start making payments again. Same with everything else. Savi is going to monitor the situation, and once payments are set to begin, we'll notify everyone as well so that you will be prepared to start making payments once the date comes. To wrap up this section, some important upcoming dates that you need to know about. Yesterday, February 28th, was when the Supreme Court started hearing oral arguments on President Biden's debt relief plan. Looking to the future, May 1st is the deadline to consolidate loans to receive full benefits of the one-time account adjustment. So if you don't have direct or FFEL loans, that are managed by the Department of Education, it's very important you consolidate by May 1st in order to receive the benefits of the upcoming account adjustments. Around May of 2023 is when we're expecting a Supreme Court decision on President Biden's debt relief plan. So once that decision is released, that's what will let us know if the program can continue or if it has been shut down. June 30th will be the deadline for us to hear back about that program. So if we haven't heard back by June 30th, payments will be resuming 60 days after that. July of 2023 is when the one-time account adjustment will happen and when those IDR and PSLF changes will take effect. And then later this year, September 2023 would be the latest potential date for payments to resume. So lots of deadlines and things coming up in the next coming months. I think the most important thing on this page, and the one that I would stress to you all the most, is that May 1st deadline to consolidate in order to receive the account adjustment benefits. So check student aid, make sure you've got the correct loan types, consolidate by that date if you need to, so that you can receive the full benefits and get on your way to forgiveness. All right, let me take a quick look at the Q&A, and then we will talk about how Savi can help you make sense of all of this and what you need to do to get started.
Hey, Job, one question that I saw come through, maybe you can answer. Someone asks, can consolidation include my own personal loans and the Parent Plus loans taken out by a parent for me? So maybe you can sort of clarify for this borrower, maybe others, sort of that breakdown between Parent Plus loans and who owns them and what consolidation could do.
For sure, that's a great question, and one we get asked all the time. I think Parent Plus loans are the trickiest loans to work with because there's so many specific details that apply just to them. So for Parent Plus loans, everything is going to be based on the person who took that loan out, which would be the parent. So in order to enroll that in an income-driven plan, it will be based on the parent's income. In order to receive forgiveness, the parent has to be the one to work in public service. At this time, there is no way to transfer that loan from parent to child, and it will be in the name of the person that took it out. So if you are the child and your parent has a Parent Plus loan, you cannot consolidate it with your own loans. It's your parent that has to work in public service and make the payments on that loan in order for it to be forgiven. Just a couple more details with the Parent Plus loans. Like I said, they're the trickiest. So in order to make a Parent Plus loan eligible for forgiveness, it needs to be consolidated into a direct consolidation loan and then enrolled into the ICR plan, which is one of those income plans. So once it's consolidated, enrolled in the ICR plan, the parent has to work in public service and make 120 payments for it to be forgiven. And building off of that, because I see a couple other questions about people saying, can Savi help with consolidation? So if you use Savi, we definitely can help with that. So no matter what type of loans you have, as you work through our application, we'll be able to help you consolidate if need be so that you have the correct types. So if you have a Parent Plus loan, we would definitely be able to help the parent consolidate, get it to the correct type, and get it on track for forgiveness. Someone says, how does the account adjustment work if I haven't been in an IDR plan yet? So one of the benefits of the account adjustment is that you'll get credit for repayment even if you weren't in an IDR plan yet. So say you've been paying your loans on an extended plan or a standard plan, you'll still get the benefits of that account adjustment so that you can count that as in repayment towards IDR forgiveness, which is 20 to 25 years of repayment based on your situation and your loan types. So even if you haven't been in an IDR plan, don't worry. You can still enroll in one now, and then the account adjustment will give you credit for all of those past payments that were maybe made on the wrong repayment plan. And remember, the account adjustment is going to be an automatic process for anyone with correct loan types. So the only action that you need to take to make sure you are included is check your loan types and consolidate them if need be. once you've got the correct loan types, they will automatically make the adjustments to give you credit and update your account appropriately. And I see there's a good number of questions asking how Savi fits into all of this. So I'm going to pause on questions again, walk you through what the Savi application looks like, and then with whatever time we have left at the end, answer a few more. So with Savi, you can complete one application to see personalized IDR options and track your PSLF progress. Only one application you need to complete. Once you complete it, we'll show you customized results for exactly what your payment could be on an income-driven plan, how many payments you have towards PSLF, and what your actual forgiveness amount could look like. You'll also be able to receive updates on PSLF improvements, debt relief, and more. So Savi is going to monitor everything in the news related to student loans, and whenever there's a change or a new policy is announced, we'll be sure to update all of you to help you take advantage of it. You can also recertify your IDR plans and update your employment certification annually through Savi. So every year, there are forms you need to submit in order to stay enrolled in these programs and stay on track. Savi can remind you when it's time to do that. That way you never miss a deadline and you can stay on track for forgiveness as soon as possible. And one of the biggest benefits of Savi is that you can sign and submit your IDR and PSLF applications right from your Savi account. So you will be able to take all of your information, digitize your application, and create it to create a seamless application process. And you can receive personalized support from student loan experts like me and all of my teammates that are on here answering your questions today. So remember, if you are ready to get started with Savi and you're brand new, follow the link in your email to reset your password. We already created an account for you to make it as easy as possible. So all you need to do is follow those instructions, reset your password, and get signed in. If you're a returning user, you can log back into your account at buysavi.com. Once you're logged in, this is what our main dashboard looks like. It's the place where everything you're working on with Savi lives and gives you an overview of where you're at in the process, what we're working on, and what we need from you. You'll see announcements on the dashboard letting you know about upcoming events like this one, announcements related to things like the payment pause, and anything new and exciting in the student loan world you need to know about. If you're interested in attending any more of our events, you can always RSVP for our upcoming webinars using the announcements page on your dashboard. That way you can stay in the know, join, and get your questions answered just like with this one. If you know anyone else that could benefit from Savi and could use some help with their loans, you can invite friends and family by entering their email. We'll send them an invite to create an account, and they'll be able to sign up to get help with their loans as well. You'll also be able to select a plan. So Savi does offer different plans. We have our DIY plan, which lets you see your options and you complete the forms on your own. And our most popular plan is our Essential plan. This is the plan that lets us create your applications for you digitally and turn them in. It gives you access to Savi support to answer all of your questions. So be sure to check out the plan options page to find the plan that's the best fit for you so that you can get started with Savi and get working towards forgiveness. All right, so that's all of the features of the dashboard. Let's show you what the application looks like so that you know what to expect whenever you're working through it. The first thing we'll ask for is family information, since that's all info that can affect your payment on an IDR plan. Once you've got all of that completed, you'll be able to proceed to the next page where you will provide your income information. So we'll ask about your situation to know if your income has changed, and we'll tell you where to look to enter your income. I always like to encourage people to try and enter it as specifically as possible, because the more specific you are, the more accurate our estimates are. After that is the employment page, and this is where you can check if your employment qualifies for PSLF. All you need to do is add your employer here and answer a couple of questions, and we will be able to determine if they're a qualifying employer for PSLF. The easiest way to do this is to search through our database, which has over 1 million employers already in it. You'll be able to select them from the drop-down menu, and we'll let you know that they qualify for PSLF. Later on in the application, we'll be able to help you create your employment certification forms so that you can get credit for the payments you made at those employers. We can only create those forms for the employers that you've added on this page. So it's very important that you add in all of your employment history so that we can check if they count and that nothing gets missed when it's time to apply for forgiveness. After that, you'll go to the loan sync where you can add your student loans so that Savi can take a look at your situation and figure out what your next steps are. The easiest way to do this is to sign in with the same username and password as your online servicer, and we'll take a snapshot of your loans to confirm your loan types, your loan balances, and determine what next steps are needed. Savi isn't a loan servicer, and adding your loans on this page doesn't take any action on them yet. It just gives us a snapshot so that we can get you those estimates. People were asking, how do I know what types of loans I have? How do I know if I need to consolidate? This is the page that allows us to help you with that. By adding your loans on here, we can confirm what your loan types are so that if you need to consolidate, we can walk you through that process and make sure that you have the correct types needed for forgiveness. After you have completed the application, you'll then be able to see all of the options available to you. We'll show you exactly what your payment could be on an income-driven plan. We'll show you how far along you are towards forgiveness and what your actual forgiveness amount is. We'll show you the plan that will give you the lowest payment and the most forgiveness automatically. But if you wanted to see everything you qualify for, you can click Show More Plans to see everything that's available to you. Once you find the one that's the best fit for you, you can click Continue to start enrolling. This is where those Savi memberships come into play and where the Essential membership really shines. If you are an Essential member, we'll be able to create your forms for you digitally to get them sent off and enroll you in these programs. On the left, you can see what it looks like when you make your ECF, which is the application for the PSLF program. You'll be able to create a form for each one of your employers that you've entered in the application, and then we'll take care of sending it to your employer, getting it signed, and submitting it. On the right, you can see what the income-driven repayment application looks like. The number one reason that forms are denied are because they're filled out incorrectly. But by using the Essential membership, we can pre-fill your forms to ensure that they're filled out correctly and have the best chances of being accepted. All you need to do is sign and submit, and we will send it to your loan servicer to enroll you in your selected plan. After you've created all of those applications, you'll be able to track their statuses back on your dashboard. You can see if your employer has signed, if it's been submitted to your loan servicer, and if it's been processed. This is a great way for Essential members to see exactly where they are in the process, see all of your student loan applications in one spot. That way, it's as easy and seamless as possible for you to take action and get on track for forgiveness. As you are working through our application, if you have questions, we're here to help. Anyone is able to consult our help center, which includes frequently asked questions, detailed articles on common student loan topics, and even how-to videos that walk you through completing our application. If you are an Essential member, you'll be able to reach out to Savi support to get personalized support and help with your student loans. If you need more help, you can click Still Need Help. You'll be able to call our brand new call center, which can help you in real time and answer some of your student loan questions as well. And with that, that was a lot of information, but that is everything I have for you today. I know my teammates have been hard at work answering questions in there, so I'll leave you with some next steps. Be sure to access your Savi account so that you can get started with us right away. Reset your password using the email instructions or sign back in at buysavi.com. Check out our plans and enroll in the Essential plan so that you can make applying for these programs as easy as possible. And then be sure to complete your application to see what you qualify for and to enroll in these programs. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you all being here today. And with the little bit of time we have left, I can answer a couple more questions and then we can wrap things up.